Dr. Rajesh Parekh, you will be able to explain to us this part better on how important vaccination is for us. Because, yes, we do have apprehensions now that people who are double vaccinated have contracted the virus, and the numbers are increasing again with the Omicron variant.
Frida, you actually started the program by saying that we are learning something new on a regular basis, and that dovetails right into the question that you raised right now. So let me just fill our viewers in on the most research on why the vaccines are not working that effectively. So this is a very impressive and important study conducted at Cambridge, United Kingdom, but in which the collaborations were CSIR India, there's a collaborator from Japan, one from Hong Kong, and one from South Africa. So fairly widespread across the world. And what they did is in laboratory conditions, tried to see how Omicron deals with vaccine-induced immunity. So they drew blood from people who had received two kinds of vaccines, the adenovirus-based vaccine and the mRNA-based vaccine. And then the antibodies of these people were confronted with the Omicron virus, and they found that the Omicron virus was able to dodge these antibodies. So that explains why people who have had two doses and sometimes even a third dose still experience the illness. And 2 days ago, the Director General of WHO made an announcement saying that we have to now stop talking of this variant as a mild variant. We should take that out of our lexicon from now on. And so there are clear indications why this is happening. And let me give you just two quick examples. A few months ago, I read a news report that the Prime Minister of New Zealand and her husband were entering a restaurant, and they discovered that had they both come in, there would have been one person in excess of 50% capacity. So they were told to wait. And so they politely started leaving. And then somebody ran after them and said that, look, there is one seat now, and both of you can come in. I mean, that's such a tremendous example of enforcement.
Yes.
And let me tell you what I experienced. I was in Paris mid-September, and to enter a restaurant in Paris, of course, you had to have a vaccine certificate, and the restaurant was at 50% capacity. Now, I had gone to the same restaurant 2 days in a row, and I'd shown them my vaccine certificate. But on the third day when I went, I wasn't carrying it with them. So, of course, they received me and they asked to see it again. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have it. But, you saw it 2 days ago. They said, sorry, we can't admit you because we have surprise checks. And if somebody walks in, an inspector, and sees that you do not have your vaccine certificate, we can be fined, I forget the amount, it was a big amount, about 3,000 euros, and we will be shut down for 2 weeks. So if there's a single person here without a vaccine certificate, we can be shut down for 2 weeks. Now, that's the quality of enforcement in France, and that's the quality of compliance in New Zealand when the Prime Minister is turned away from a restaurant because they're packed.
These are excellent examples, and perhaps in that sense, we have a long way to go. I want to ask you, like you brought this up, and which is why, I just looked up and I realized that on the issue of how effective the existing vaccines are, again, opinion is divided. You have the central government who is in a way saying, well, we have no reason to believe that the existing vaccines don't work. Now, that is not saying much from what does that exactly mean? Secondly, WHO says it has reduced effectiveness. The current and existing vaccines which are on the roll may not exactly be the best protector. What do we make of that, Dr. Parekh?
Well, I'm always amused when people use double negatives. We do not have evidence that it doesn't work.
Yes.
The simpler thing is we do not have adequate evidence. But of course, there is clear and present evidence that vaccination works. And let me quickly tell you, in South Africa, where Omicron started, clearly it was higher amongst unvaccinated people compared to vaccinated people. In the United States, there are reports where Omicron has entered families. And if one person in a couple has had the booster and the other has not, the person who's had the booster is protected and the other person gets infected. So there is, compelling evidence from all across the world that vaccination works. Where the debate is twofold. One, how efficacious these vaccines really are. And, Afrida, we've got to stop using vaccination in a generic sense. These vaccines are different. They all have their own personalities. They all have their own efficacies. And Omicron deals with them differently. But the study that I just cited is a laboratory study where I clearly indicated there were two types of vaccine-induced antibodies, the adenovirus and the mRNA, and Omicron seemed to dodge both of them. What they haven't studied yet, however, but I anticipate that study in the next few days, is what happens to disease-induced antibodies. How does Omicron deal with that? We don't know as yet. But that vaccines work is not a debate.
Okay, what you're saying
is... How well
is...
they work, there's opinions.
How well they work, there may be difference of opinion. That's a matter of degree. One point before I go for closing comments to Dr. Parekh, and that is this, that it is not reiterated enough. One point that is not said loud and clear enough is that this is a collective battle. When you mask up, you do it not just for yourself, you do it for others. And when you don't mask up, you jeopardize not just yourself, but you jeopardize others. The second point being that, yes, given a chance, like I said in the opening of the show as well, the virus would mutate. So a new variant that is upon us, we do not know everything about it. The least we can do is maintain discipline. And I appreciate Mr. Jhagre bringing it up again, that enforcement cannot be lax. That has to continue. Anything else you would like to add as a researcher, Dr. Rajesh? What has been the biggest takeaway for you, which you think that people must know this, so that they understand how serious this is and how costly it can be if we lower the guard?
Yeah, so Frida, if I may just amplify both your points with one point. And, we've got to look upon these people who are not taking vaccines and are not disciplined as bioterrorists. These are suicidal bioterrorists who, instead of spraying the public with bullets, as terrorists do, are spraying viruses. In that, they are endangering themselves, their immediate family, and all of us. So, yes, you do have a point when I guess that you're making the case for more rigorous enforcement. Absolutely, and that covers both your points.
Absolutely, and right. Very quickly then, the current guidelines, if you've had a chance to go through it, Dr. Rajesh, what exactly you think, is it enough, or there is more that needs to be done, even when it comes to policy making?
See, I'm not an expert on how these policies are made, but from the little that I understand, they have to begin with guidelines. And if the guidelines are followed and they seem to work, then that's good enough. But if it seems clear, and Charlene's excellent reports seem to indicate that these guidelines are not being followed, then it comes to a point where there has to be some kind of law enforcement, as with the two examples that I cited. But on a lighter note, I could not help thinking to myself when Charlene showed her report at Dadar station, that what she could not show is that a lot of these people are walking around with masks symbolically on their eyes. So it's time for administrators and for us to take the mask off our eyes and put them where they truly belong, on our noses and on our mouths.
Yes, very rightly said. And that is what Charlene kept pointing out in her report as well, that people are not wearing it correctly. And you already are wearing it and you are not wearing it correctly. That is like, the worst case scenario that can happen, that you do not do that last bit, and that can also endanger lives. It is very important to understand all of these things. We keep highlighting these issues time and again for a reason, and people will have to cooperate. It's a collaborative, collective battle which cannot be won either with the authorities imposing more restrictions or only with people deciding to do their bit, but the authorities not keeping an eye, not penalizing. Amazing examples given from countries abroad, how they are doing it. We have to beat the virus in the current configuration without allowing it to mutate further. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on this very interesting conversation. Appreciate your sharing your views with us.